They didn't sell the garage. They had it moved and brought it down to the other house, which didn't have a garage, obviously.
Oh, wow.
Moved the garage.
Huh. And so you had your own room. So when you looked out of your bedroom window, what did you see? Woods?
I saw the, well, the Catholic school was right next door. So I looked out on the playground of the Catholic school and the outhouses that they had along the strip of, the edge of the property they had. They had a whole long strip of outhouses. And the kids would be playing ball or playing in the yard there. And
Mhm.
there's a big two-story wooden parochial school there. So that's what I would look at. Now my room, I couldn't get to my room unless I went through my mother and father's room. It was that kind of an arrangement there.
Right, right.
And the stairway was there. To get downstairs, I'd have to walk through their room and then go downstairs. My sister's room, she went directly downstairs. She didn't have to go through.
My house was bigger than your house.
Oh, God, yes.
You
Yeah.
married into wealth,
Oh.
Dad. You see that?
But when I lived there, I thought it was a big house. I
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah, I did too.
It really wasn't.
Right.
And so you had electricity, but how did Grandma do laundry at her place? Did she do the same as Grandma Friedrich? Or did she have an electric appliance
no.
to help with that?
I honestly don't remember doing laundry. It was not one of my priorities. We had a big cellar, though. We had a full cellar. It was a
Oh, okay.
finished cellar. And they had a bar there, and they had
Mm.
ceiling and fixed up nice for parties and stuff like that. And on the other side of it, I had a little woodworking shop in the cellar, where they generally kept me locked down there most of the time. So I don't remember seeing a wash machine down
Yeah.
the cellar or anything. So my guess is they didn't have any of those kind of things.
Mm.
Kitchen was just a sink with like a board next
Right.
to it for putting the dishes on and draining the water out, I guess. We had running water. It was a pump. I mean,
Right.
we had well water, but we didn't have to pump the pitcher.
Yeah, we had well water too.
But you didn't have outhouses. You had.
We had a bathroom, yeah.
You had a bathroom in
Right.
The cesspool.
Did you know people growing up who still had outhouses, or was it pretty much?
Yeah. Oh, lots of people.
Yeah.
My aunt lived across the street on New York Avenue on the other side of 41st Street. My aunt lived. And they had an outhouse
Mm.
And no electric.
and no electric.
Not until many, many years
That
later.
was my father's brother.
Okay. Wow.
They had no children. But
I remember one time we had a coal stove for hot water. I used that to put the coal, get rid of the ashes and do all that stuff. And we had an oil burner for heat. And it was a steam boiler. And one time something happened and it built up pressure or something, and the tank came up right through the kitchen floor. I came home and this tank sitting in the middle of the floor. The
Oh my
floor was
gosh.
all up.
Ouch.
Something went wrong with the relief
Mm.
valve or something happened. The thing.
yeah, we
Blasted
used coal too to heat the house. Coal.
You had one of those registers, open registers, didn't you?
No,
You
we had
radiators. Oh,
we had
yeah.
radiators, but we had coal. Then eventually went to oil, but
Yeah.
in the beginning there was coal.
And so somebody would come deliver the coal.
Yes.
Well, when we had the oil burner, but for the hot water heat, I had to go down to the Huffman Avenue. There was a big coal yard there. I used to have a big wagon, and I would have to go down and get nut coal, and they'd fill up the wagon and bring the wagon home.
Mm. We had ours delivered, and you had a window in the basement, and then they would put the long chute
Shoot
and
right in
shoot
there.
the coal down into
Sure.
the coal bin, which was right next to the
Yeah, the
Where-
trucks
where's
used to
that coal?
deliver.
coals, the stove, the furnace, the
Yeah,
furnace.
first, yeah.
And so, growing up, talk about church. How did you guys go to church every Sunday? Was it a big part of? And what church did you guys go to? Did you go to the same church or different churches?
Same.
St. John's, yeah. It was on the other side of Wellwood. It was on West John Street.
Right.
at the
Sunday
time.
school.
Had a Sunday school there.
Right.
So you knew each other even kind of when you were young, really
Yeah.
young. I mean, you knew of each
Well,
other
we-
at least, or you?
Not really. I
No.
don't think.
No.
Till I was maybe
We're-
12 or 13, and
yeah.
I got to know who she was.
Okay.
but didn't I?
We're in the Sunday school picture together, but you're in one row back here and
Yeah,
in another
we
row.
were, there was an age difference there. And then,
Right. So you
But-
both went to St. John's growing up,
Mhm.
and was that something like every Sunday you had to go? Did the whole family go?
My family really only went sporadically to church. My mother didn't go that often. My mother was Methodist.
Okay.
Father was Lutheran. Grandmother was Catholic. Grandfather was Lutheran. But the only regular church, my father went with his mother to the Catholic church for novenas every Monday night, either in Lindenhurst or in Wyandanch. That was a routine.
Hmm.
I occasionally had to go along, and I did because after they stopped for ice cream, so I got ice cream. But that was the only regular church. As far as going to church by us, they went on Easter and Christmas and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Then when we had to get involved when we went to get confirmed, of course.
Right.
And they made a big fuss because they wanted me to get confirmed at the same class as my sister, who was 2 years older.
Hmm.
And the church didn't like that because I was too young. I shouldn't get. But somehow they prevailed, and I was in that same class.
Hmm.
And but, you knew everybody. All the families knew everybody at the time. My cousin Honey was in the class. My cousin Eddie Wenish was in the class. My sister was in the class, and I knew half the people in there. But they said, because I guess I was only 11 or 12 instead of 14. And
Right.
Right. No,
What about for you, Mom?
we went all the time, Sunday school and church. But my mother didn't go until, we got older, and she went back to church. And my father was Catholic. And the story goes that when he married my mother, who was at the time, I think she was a Presbyterian. She was raised in Presbyterian church. And he was like excommunicated because he married out of his
Sure.
church. So then he never went, just stopped going.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I taught Sunday school and did all that. We're in Sunday school plays for years.
Did you guys have big Sunday dinners with family?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
that's why
tradition?
my mother didn't go. My
She was-
father would take us to Sunday school, but I think that's why my mother didn't go to church because of, dinner was at 12 o'clock.
So she stayed home and prepared
Yeah,
for the meal. Who came over for dinner on Sundays?
I had aunts and uncles lived in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
And my godmother lived in Babylon. They would come over sometimes for dinner, and
Pre-
we'd go over there
Pretty regularly, or once in a while, or
pretty regularly, I
Yeah.
would say.
and Sunday was the day that people would come over and do
Yeah.
that. It wouldn't be a Wednesday night or something like
No.
that. People were busy
No.
working. And what about at your house? Did people come over on
no,
Sundays?
not really. We had just the family be home. My mother, my older, always cooked a big Sunday dinner. Mashed potatoes and gravy and meat and whatever. But actually, we didn't have room for too many people at the table. Because it wasn't that big. Yes, I find out now.
We
But,
had a dining room with quite a big
Yeah,
table.
you had a big
and all
dining room.
that.
No, we didn't generally entertain people on Sundays.
Yeah.
And Christmas time, we would go to my grandmother Abrams, who had the whole family used to go there. They had 5 daughters, and all had husbands and
Mhm.
kids, and it was a real big holiday, but it wasn't at our house.
I
We'd
think
have,
we
like,
went over to my Aunt Barbara and Uncle Frank's in Babylon quite a
Babylon.
bit because my mother's father lived with them. And so my mother would want to go see her father.
Visit,
So
yeah.
I think that's why, we would go there quite often. Grandpa lived there.
Did you have any pets growing up, Mom?
Well, a couple of dogs, but, I wanted a dog, and you know how that goes, and mother has to take care of it. Fox Terriers, and we got them from the farm,
Yeah.
and so it probably was my brother's dog, the first one probably, got for him. was Pal.
Then you didn't have a dog named Petey?
Yeah, and then shortly before I got married, I got another dog, and then I got married, and my mother said, "You're not taking a dog home."
Thank goodness.
So then she had another dog.
And Dad, you had lots of pets, right?
I had one dog, police dog, German Shepherd dog, and then I had for, I don't know, I guess I was in the early teens. I had the dog until he bit me, and then got rid of the dog.
Where did he bite you?
Bit my hand, I was feeding him.
Oh,
Bit the hand that feeds him. you know.
wow. That old
I was the
expression.
one that took care of him, kept cleaning up after him, and fed him every time, and one day he bit me.
I remember your mother had a dog though.
And my mother had a little
Snowball, right?
Pomeranian, Fluffy.
Oh, I thought it was
No.
Snowball.
No, Snowball was a restaurant. It was Fluffy, but that wasn't my dog.
No.
After I had that dog, I soured me on dogs
Right.
altogether. No more pets.
And then after we got married, never wanted a dog. He said I had enough taking care of kids, but I had no dog. Take care of
Did the
them.
kids ever pine for pets? Did they ever?
Not that
Well-
I didn't pay attention if
No.
they did because I didn't notice it.
Right. They knew how you felt, I guess, because they never pestered. That I remember.
I think it was don't ask.
And cats, no, neither one of us like cats.
No cats.
I had a couple of cats up at the farm that we, my girl Alice and I,
I never got a pony either. So.
we each had a cat, and we would put them in our doll carriage and walk them around.
Did you ever milk a cow?
No,
You never milked a cow.
I think they probably, tried to teach me, but I never,
You never.
no.
What about you, Dad?
Oh yeah, I've milked a lot of cows.
When did you milk cows?
When I was a teenager, every summer I used to go upstate on a dairy farm and work all summer, getting the hay in and milking the cows, bringing the cows in every morning, letting them out after they milked. And then when I came back home after the summer, there was a dairy farm down in South 6th Street. Brower had a farm there. So after school I would go down there and they had milking machines, but the cows had to be stripped after the milking machine. So I would get down there and strip cows after I got done school. And,
How much did you get paid for that?
Hmm?
How much did you get paid for milking
it must
cows?
have been probably a lot, maybe, a couple dollars a week or something like that. But eventually I had to stop because my mother was a little upset because when I came home I smelled, like cows and stuff.
Yeah.
I had to take my clothes off in the backyard and come in the house. I couldn't bring the clothes in the house. And when I come home from school to go to work, I had to go get those clothes and get dressed outside and go. So that was only the one last summer that I had gone that I worked, and after that they wouldn't let me. Then I worked in Barnacle Bill, so it was better. I didn't smell as bad.
And so you were both born at the time of the Great Depression. And I'm just curious to know, looking back on it, how did that kind of
I was too young.
affect you? But was there a sense, even when, as you later on when you were 9, 10, 11, was there kind of any kind of residual from that, or had it kind of been?
Well, I know that we had to, and it wasn't a case of wanting to, we had to go during the summer every weekend, every Sunday. We had to go out clamming, all of us, the four of us. And we had regular equipment. We had big inner tubes with burlap sacks under them to get clams. We used to get a couple bushels of clams every Sunday. And all week we had clam pie, clam stew, clam fritters, clam soup, clam chowder.
So you did it to put food on the table,
Yeah.
not supplement you, not sell them,
Yeah,
but
they
to
could go out
eat them
and get
yourself.
a bunch of potatoes, and we had the clams, and we ate the clams all week. And then next week we went out and got more clams.
Yeah.
So we had to do that.
Hmm.
We used to rent a rowboat down on South 9th Street from Rowboat Henny, and I guess it cost about $2 to rent it, and rowed out in the bay and found a spot. We used to know where all the places were, and get out and shred clams and get the clams, throw them in the tubes, and that's what we ate. I could open clams, I could obviously eat clams.
Right.
But that's the only thing that I can remember. I know my mother had to work, and my father worked, obviously, so
Yeah.
they both had to work.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anything that you recall, Mom, for
Yeah,
your family?
Well, we didn't go out clamming, but we were fortunate that my mother's sister, Aunt Emma, and her husband, and he was a fisherman, and so he would bring up clams to my mother and eels and
Mm.
things like that. So
Yeah.
that helped out with that, and I think being my father worked for Adamola too, you know,
He must have got something in
he would, you know, bring home some food and go into different stores. They probably gave him stuff maybe, and
Sure. Maybe bartered.
and,
Yeah.
we were poor, but we always had, you know, food on the table. And my mother sewed. I know she would make me clothes, and
Did she ever do the buttons?
no,
There used to be a button
Button
factory
factory.
here, and
Yeah.
the people, when they to sell the buttons, they used to have them sewed on cards, like be a set of buttons, certain sizes for suits or dresses or whatever. And they used to have a truck that would bring the buttons and the cards to different houses, and housewives sewed the buttons, and then next week they would come around picking them up, and they'd pay you so much, a penny,
card.
$100 or something, whatever it was.
Sure.
But,
I
a
paid
lot
my
of people did that. I don't know
Yeah.
if your mother ever did that or not.
I don't remember my mother doing it.
My
but-
mother never did it, but my grandmother did it, I'm sure.
Hmm. Who was your best friend growing up, Dad? I have no recollection of you ever talking about
Walter
one.
McDonald,
Walter McDonald.
nickname was Pee Wee because he was quite small for his age. His father was a state trooper. They lived on Bristol Street. We were very close buddies all the time together, either at his house or my house or at school.
Is he the same age as you?
He was the same age, athlete, good athlete. So we played ball together. We played handball together. When I was ahead in school because I got skipped, and so I got out of school a year ahead of him. The last year he was in school, he got to be 6'1". He pitched a no-hitter for the baseball team. He was a real superstar, and he grew up like in that 1 year. He always was a little guy, a little shrimp, under 5 foot. Everybody called him Pee Wee.